we like this guy. At least I do. So, all right, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast number 795. When the hero of legend is actually horrifying. This is by Savage Books. We've covered this guy before. He sounds pretty good. We like his videos. So it's 15 and a half minutes of him talking about, I'm assuming, Skyrim, and the fact that when you think about all these characters in video games, once they get the power creep going, they become literal demigods running around the universe that suck the souls of dragons and people alike, and they're just a one-man army. So yeah, that is a terrifying thing depending on the universe. And
I want to make a personal bet. It's like we were just talking about Final Fantasy, but when we were warming up, it's like I have a feeling that's going to come up, and I'm going to make a personal guess towards Infamous.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, Infamous. Totally.
It just does generally that idea, but takes it in its own direction.
It's a horror element, yeah, of being the hero, yeah. So it's
and that's a superhero universe that has no baggage for it that makes it suck like DC and Marvel nowadays.
Yeah, I mean when you
still hold up.
When you're thinking of worlds that are already demonic and scary, like Castlevania, and you're playing as the son of Count Dracula, you become a veritable demigod, but you're in a house of horrors. So it's like, all right, that makes sense that you become strong enough to defeat them all, and you become your own master of power. So that's okay. I don't get scared of these ideas, but the idea of
although within the context of the topic of this video, it's like that one does get more of a pass because Alucard isn't the hero of legend. That's the Belmonts.
Sure, but with Skyrim, the example of, I don't know if he's going to bring that up, but this thumbnail, if you can one-shot a dragon just by like throwing an arrow at it, it's like, oh my god. And then
that's not with an arrow, but
that's more broken game mechanics than anything.
And then it consumes the dragon's soul.
And then you see the bones of the dragon, just everything just disintegrate around him, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then you could.
I wanted to cook that.
And then
sometimes the bones stick around. Yeah.
And then he shouts.
Oh yeah.
Then the sky darkens and lightning starts striking everyone.
And it starts making people nervous.
Yeah. And he summons ghosts that hunt and kill for him. Yeah, it's crazy. He's a crazy, powerful man.
And then the iconic one
teleporting around as well.
Oh yeah, and then the iconic shout Fusroda, which is just a shockwave.
And it is the most overpowered thing in that game, second only to stealth archery.
Knowing how Skyrim can go, it's like it can go in the direction that this video is suggesting with the title. It's like he might bring it up more extensively, but if that's one of the big points of the argument, it's like, okay, fine, there you do have somewhat of a point there. It's just a matter of how he's going to go at it.
Yeah. Okay, and he's a good writer. He's a good orator, so I'm sure we'll be able to understand him. And I'm sure he's a gamer as well if he's bringing up this topic. So anyway, let's get started.
This video is sponsored by Monopoly Go.
Oh, Lord.
One of my favorite things in writing is the little unintended consequences that an author cannot possibly consider when putting pen to paper. It's tiny stuff with big implications, like, do orcs have restaurants with menus?
Probably not.
Meat's back on our menu, boy. No way. God.
Was Chip from Beauty and the Beast born as a cup, or has he been a baby for 10 years? No matter how good you are as a writer,
they were turned into
inevitably be unintended novelties like this that arise in your story. But my favorite examples of these happy and sometimes terrifying little mistakes are from video games. Now, just so you understand, I'm a hopeless gamer. I had to pry myself away from my Switch just to write this script. I've always been like this, and I probably always will be. I literally remember the exact moment that I got my first video game ever. It was a surprise. My mom got me a Game Boy Advanced with Sonic Advanced already inside. I was standing in my living room when I turned it on. I remember being right next to the kitchen. I remember being entranced by Green Hill Zone, glued to that screen, which is ironic because it was all uphill from there. In the more than 2 decades since that moment, I have poured in probably what amounts to, shamefully,
I don't see how any of this is relevant to the point, though.
Yeah. All makings. Whether it's Super Smash Bros., yes, all of them, Civilization, Tropico, Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Crusader Kings, The Last of Us, Call of Duty, Budokai Tenkaichi. I have sweet little memories of them all tucked away between my ears. But I don't.
Great, you are a normal
think
person.
there are
Congratulations.
many games
You're a
close to
casual
my
gamer.
heart
That's
as
great.
Skyrim. It
I
has
forgot about
one of
that really
the best
boring opening.
examples of those unintended little story moments that I talked about before. Picture it. It's September 10th, 2011, and it's
What the
1 minute
fucking
after
hell?
midnight. Your dad has graciously driven you to a GameStop to stand outside in the cold with 36 other
Really?
nerds, because your dad's a bro. And then that clock ticks once more to midnight.
September?
Wasn't Skyrim released on November
Entire
11th,
words.
2011?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2011.
It was released on 11/11/11.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was kind of a marketing. That was a kind of a marketing stunt.
Things, yeah.
He got his dates wrong. That's fine.
Yeah, it's like a lot of
He's showing Call of Duty, so is he on about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 instead?
Maybe.
Let's just go with the casual angle and say he likes Skyrim a lot. Let's just go with that.
I mean, it's a fun game, but
Well, that's obvious from thumbnail.
Yeah.
And
he was presumably talking about Skyrim.
I think we all have a casual relationship with Skyrim if we're gamers, and some people just love it to death. So that's fine. Whatever. He got some dates wrong. That's cool.
Cultural hits North America.
This is Skyrim running
Yeah, he
on
got the
360.
fucking date wrong. That's
Brand
okay.
new engine we've written for the game, all new graphics, all new gameplay.
But there is another game
No.
that took the world
No.
2 decades ago.
What?
It's persisted to this day.
It's the
got a
ad.
new coat of paint
This is the ad?
to the internet, so it's my pleasure to introduce
No.
God bless.
Let me-
And I just was
Help.
thank you.
Let me just skip through this.
and that's what he looks like.
Monopoly.
All right, here we go.
Okay,
Of
okay,
all
we're good.
games, the worst
Anyway.
board game.
I don't think it tickles the same spot in me as Skyrim does. I sunk 500 hours into that game.
Those are rookie numbers. Get those numbers up.
I didn't even like
This is a normal playthrough.
I hadn't even played an Elder Scrolls game.
What?
Hype for Skyrim
What?
re-release.
You've
I
never
mean,
played it?
Skyrim is the only Elder Scrolls game I've played, but I do want to try Morrowind and Oblivion.
Yeah.
so I've probably spent 500 hours trying to fix my fucking mod load order because it's yet again broken. Yet again.
Nice job, Todd.
And that's on Xbox One, so not PC. Never really been able to get it to run on PC.
So this is a case of I've never played Final Fantasy till 7 came out scenario because of the graphics sort of thing.
I mean,
There's a clear difference there because 7 was my favorite at first because it was the first Final Fantasy to come out in the UK.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, we didn't get the other Final Fantasies.
You-
it was the first.
yeah,
fully,
it-
7 was the first fully international Final Fantasy.
Who remembers what the first one was?
I know it was
I
on
have
the
seen
Famicom.
pictures.
The only other game threads people had prior to 7 was Mystic Quest.
I mean, I never really got into Final Fantasy until I played 16. I think the most recent releases.
Really?
You know, aside from Rebirth.
Well, I had the NES.
We had the
so
Game Boy version of Mystic Quest. That was great.
I played the original,
It
so
was hard
it was
and
translated.
tragic.
So the first one was translated on the NES in North America.
1, 4, and 6.
Yeah, Mystic Quest. Then it was Adventure. Was it Adventure 2? I can't remember.
Adventure, which was Sword of Mana.
Right. Oh, they named it that. Yeah.
They named it that, yeah.
In America.
Yeah. I
In
know.
America.
Here
In
in
Am- yeah, yeah,
in
in
Europe, that was Mystic Quest.
Right.
Yeah, and then they brought over Romancing Saga's Legend, I think.
Oh yeah, I remember all
Which I
those.
think
weird ones.
Romancing Saga is supposed to get a remake soon.
Well, just the Saga series in general.
Same with Live a Live. That was another one they did. But yeah, there was a bunch of those SquareSoft games that North America got with different translations.
Yeah, it's like we had like the North American market had 1, 4, and 6. They renumbered 4 and 6 as 2 and 3, but 7 was for the entire world the big breakthrough for the series.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't get into the series until 16. I went back and played 7, and I'm enjoying my playthrough of 7. I need to finish that. I might do that tomorrow.
That's one of the ones that people talk about the most.
Whereas with the Elder Scrolls, My first was Oblivion because it was on 360, and that's where a lot of people's first Elder Scrolls game was.
I think it was a similar thing with Morrowind, the same thing that
Lost.
FF7 did for Final Fantasy.
Well,
From a general view.
That was many people's first really big free adventure.
Skyrim was most people's first Elder Scrolls game because of the massive marketing.
Yeah, because the marketing campaign, and as well as Elder Scrolls having made a big name for itself with Morrowind and Oblivion beforehand.
Morrowind was the first one that was close to mainstream. It basically made it so that they could afford to make Oblivion and do a bit of get a bit of polish and do some marketing about it. But the first two, they're DOS games, so yeah.
Arena and Daggerfall.
Yeah.
Arena, I remember that one.
Which those were pretty innovative, but it was still with Arena and Daggerfall, it was still quite niche.
Yeah.
Morrowind was
looking back at Arena and Daggerfall now, they are
the system they're running on as well. It's also the system they're running on. It's not the friendliest system to get started working. So
Morrowind was the first one that was.
So Morrowind really. Yeah,
I would rather say Morrowind was big within the scene of gamers, and Skyrim is the thing that is played by everyone.
For the Elder Scrolls. That was the juggernaut for the series.
And we've had it re-released like 27 times now.
At least in terms of overall versions, 2 times, Special Edition and Legendary Edition.
I'm just being hyperbolic.
There's not yet been a port for my toaster.
He's working on it.
I mean, they ported Doom. They ported Doom to Pregnancy Test, though. I think that's Doom. They've also ported Doom to a Pregnancy Test, by the way.
I mean, if it can run, it has like 4 gigs of RAM. It can run Doom.
Well, Doom doesn't
4
take
gigs. I can play Doom on my MP3 player that has a tiny display of 50 times 100.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's like Doom is from '93, and by today's standards, it takes next to nothing.
Yeah,
basically nothing.
Which it's where the meme "Can it run Doom" comes from.
And then the meme became "Can it run Crisis?"
This was before the age of GPUs and having a math coprocessor in your Intel chip or your 486 at the time. So yeah, no, you could definitely run Doom.
I think Doom was right before that. Yeah.
Gigabytes did not exist when Doom came out.
Nope.
Not yet.
Can it run Star Citizen? No.
I don't even know what that is.
No one does.
I don't know what it is.
Anyway, let's get on with the video.
They had dragons everywhere. And I love dragons.
Yeah, that was a problem. They were like mosquitoes.
Or elf or lizard.
It got to the point where, cool, dragon. 5 hours later, god damn it, another dragon.
The problem with the dragons in Skyrim is that they're just as abundant and annoying as the flying pterodactyls I forgot the name of in Morrowind.
Cliff racers. Actually, in the lore, cliff racers came from Akavir, and they actually ate all of the dragons on Vardenfell.
How to devalue dragons?
Yeah, they played their hand too heavily with emphasizing dragons as a core enemy. They could have done
weren't as common. They'd feel more special, but the fact that they appear pretty much every time you go into the open world, it gets annoying.
All they should have done is just leave them as bosses. That's it.
Also the flying lizards in Skyrim, they're actually wyverns.
A wyvern is a type of dragons. Do not get on into this pedantic bullshit.
It's a lesser dragon. It's a lesser dragon.
Still a dragon.
I will throw a Tatzelwurm at you.
All right.
Yeah,
that's what that is.
Okay.
Yeah, them.
All right.
It's another type.
Let's keep going.
Anyway, let's keep going.
And that was enough to convince me. Skyrim is honestly just the idea of the Dragonborn itself. Not only are you in a fantasy Viking land with magic and warriors and an entire country to use as your sandbox, but you are a legendary, once in 1,000 years hero who was literally born with the soul of a dragon. And not like, oh, you're strong and fierce with the heart of a dragon. No, I mean, you just actually have a dragon soul just in a mortal body. From the get-go, putting the
Okay,
player
he's just
in
gonna
this
fanboy
position
over the
makes them
game?
feel extraordinary
Apparently.
inside an already fantastic world. And then it just sets you free. You get to choose your fighting style, your armor, your
it's not
companions, your
fantastic
magic, a quest line, a lot of it. Honestly, I don't know why I'm explaining this to you guys. The game's been out for like, what?
Yeah, please stop and get to the point.
Years now. You all know it. Vampires, werewolves, dragons, oh my. And through all of the adventure, the mystery, and the action, you get the sense through your power that you really are a legendary hero. Once you start Fusro-dawing people into orbit and plucking dragons out the sky, the game really makes you feel like Spider-Man. I mean, the Dragonborn. Alduin, while not being the most compelling...
The Joker name is...
That is not a good thing.
It was referencing another video.
Oh. Okay.
I'm not sure whether it was his video or someone else's video, but it's does Spider-Man on PS4 make you feel like Spider-Man?
All right. Fair enough. Fine. I didn't get it, but that's okay.
The only one that it's like this, and this all started with free, and we also mentioned Arkham before we went live. It's like that's the one that basically started that with the Arkham Knight marketing campaign.
I don't remember that.
It's like the marketing campaign for Arkham Knight was be the Batman because they were finally adding the Batmobile because people wanted it since Asylum.
I mean,
and then they over relied on it.
Yep.
I mean, I'd say, you know, I would have told you without even knowing about that marketing campaign there, that Spider-Man 2 on Xbox made me feel like Spider-Man.
The old one. The old Spider-Man 2, yeah.
Yeah.
I will die on a hill for that game compared to the new one.
Yeah, it's actually really good. Except when kids keep losing their fucking balloons.
Just pop them after a while. Just pop them.
Which I know the PS4 Spider-Man game does reference that with a drawing you can find in one of his backpacks.
the first game it references the train scene from the Spider-Man 2 movie.
It does. That worked last time.
That worked last time. That's as direct as you can possibly get. Which ultimately was member berries, but at least they remembered.
You know, that's where they actually wanted to make a good Spider-Man game.
Yeah, and that's the only good one. Honestly. Nothing of what they added later is in that game.
It's the only good one made by them.
Yes. By them, yeah.
All right. Let's keep going.
There's a difference between talking about a game and splurging about it. And he's splurging about it right now.
That's what it looks like when you kill Alduin. I've never actually got that far because I just generally fuck around a lot.
I mean, that's kind of the fun of an open world RPG. You just kind of piddle around.
I did eventually defeat Alduin and get the... And also go through the DLC.
The Dragonborn DLC for Skyrim is actually really good.
I would say
Dragonborn versus the last Dragonborn. That is a fun DLC.
I prefer Dawnguard, honestly.
I mean, yeah, you want to go be vampire.
Yeah.
Dawnguard was trying to capitalize on frickin' Twilight.
No, honestly, it was trying to capitalize on Lords of Shadow. Because Lords of Shadow 2 came out the same year, I think.
Okay.
Or was announced at least.
It is the 5th. Can we not have the fireworks in broad daylight, please?
Anyway, let's hope Savage Books stop splurging so much about Skyrim, gets to the 10 point.
Yeah.
Like he spent 5 minutes spurging about Skyrim or shelling out for Monopoly Go.
Although, to be fair, he has started describing the legendary hero of Skyrim, so...
Yeah.
He is currently on topic.
Villain, even in his own game, is enough of an existential threat to cement your role as the hero of the story. As the Dragonborn people praise you, fear you, respect you, want to be like you, and have you on their side. It's because you're the hero, you're the good guy, you are the messiah that's supposed to free Skyrim and maybe even all of Tamriel from evil. From a game design perspective, always being at the center of conflict and tension really reinforces the thematic idea of you being like a...
And this is why I liked Morrowind so much more, because that was not this in your face, I'm the hero, I explode things.
Yeah, you're in Morrowind and Oblivion, you're just some schmuck.
In Morrowind, you are the basically the destined messiah, but you're not the center of the world.
Exactly.
Whereas
You are.
in Skyrim, nothing
in-
happens unless you're there.
Yeah.
In Morrowind, it's so Skyrim is it's like a Mary Sue story where the world reacts to you. In Morrowind, the world is there, and you're a bloke in it. You are destined. You are the reincarnation of some mythological being, and you play out this god opera. But it's not that anyone really notices, and that's how it usually goes.
Is it the hero of Kavach, Cyrodiil, or Morrowind?
Cyrodiil.
Okay, I'm trying to remember what each one is called.
Did you just call Indral Nerevar mythical? He's a historical figure in Tamriel.
Let enough time pass, it's a mystical figure.
Mystical, okay.
All right.
Last line you decide to do, the impact of your decisions is much bigger than just you, and that brings about a grand sense of heroism for the player who is constantly...
It is for a good power fantasy, I'll give you that.
And again, that is a really cool feeling to instill in a player. It's the ultimate power fantasy, not just to be able to be stronger than everyone else, but to be a beacon of hope and light for the good.
He just wants Dragon Ball. He wants to play Dragon Ball. He doesn't want to play Skyrim, he wants to play Dragon Ball.
I mean, the mods I'm using, at low levels, you're basically some random schmuck. So you're basically weaker than you could possibly be at any point in base game Skyrim. But once you get some levels, once you power up, more powerful than you could possibly be in Skyrim without using exploits.
I mean, that's why a lot of people do prefer Fallout, particularly New Vegas, and that you're literally just a brain-damaged, drug-addicted mailman out on a fucking murder revenge fest going after Chandler Bing in a casino somewhere.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace indeed.
Except, and this is pretty wild, voices, while objectively a great experience for the player, have some pretty unintended consequences from a writing perspective. What I mean...
I wouldn't call them objectively a great experience, because, as Whisp pointed out, sometimes you don't want a power fantasy, sometimes you want to be able to work for your fun.
Yeah, if it's just...
Skyrim
is more like a stage play made for me.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that,
Whereas Morrowind is an adventure.
Yeah, the entire island is a stage that works by itself.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, even if the Dragonborn were created from the ground up to be a hero, they are also objectively horrifying and would be a villain in any other scenario.
No.
That depends on the story, on which side he is, what his goals are.
It's
not just power level, because when you just go by power level, then yes, Son Goku is a villain. Oh wow, wonderful, terrifying.
Look at Superman and Batman. Neither of them are villains. And they're fucking horrifying.
Yeah, I think Batman is pretty much designed to terrorize people, so it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, the criminals of Gotham, just not literally everyone.
Yeah, the only demonization is the police response, or I guess you could say City Hall's response to Batman saying he's a criminal, he's bad, don't trust him.
Except Gordon.
Well, yeah, he knows better, but that's part of the mystique of Batman. He's supposed to be feared.
And another one who's horrifying is Spider-Man. If you
really think about it, yeah, but
if you ever encounter Spider-Man and he's not talking, then well.
but in defense of Peter Parker, that's not all that common though. That is quite rare.
That is what makes it stand out, and that's what makes it terrifying.
To be fair, that first really came out when he put on the symbiote, and after that point, they used that as a signifier for if he's not quipping or talking, you're fucked.
Yeah. In fact, I remember one instance in the comics where he's going after a band of them, like robbing a bank or a gas station or something. Yeah, he has laryngitis. Like, Come on, no jokes today, Spidey? Here, I'll start you off. Knock, knock. Oh, no. They just surrender.
Yeah, they can even they can even joke about it too sometimes, like that.
They just outright surrender.
Like they surrender, where it's like, oh no, Spider-Man's not talking, I'm fucked, and no, it's he's just sick.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Even in the Superior Spider-Man, the Green Goblin realized he could recognize the difference between Otto Octavius and Peter Parker, depending on...
Yeah, because
as soon as Peter Parker mocked him for using a purse.
Because out of the entire Spider-Man Rogues Gallery, Norman is the one that knows him best. Because there's the personal stake with Norman.
His response, you...
Yeah, he immediately figures out that not only is Peter acting unusually, he immediately figures out that it's Otto.
Well, yeah, but when Otto did his thing, when they disappeared, when he willingly sacrificed himself, and Peter, at least I'm not a man who used a purse.
When Peter came back, okay.
All right. Well, what I'm trying to look at is that the Dragonborn would be fearful because there's no real characterization, there's no real personification of him being an individual with humanity. He's just a force that's running through the world. Whereas the superheroes in comics have a personality, they have family, they talk about their life, and people can associate, this Superman's not going to kill. He's never going to hurt anyone.
Sorry, go ahead.
Unless something happens to him, and that's why there's always contingencies with Batman. Whereas Batman, if he starts killing, then, oh my God, Gotham would be a hellhole. Like, it would be terrifying to live there. Because,
like, even outside of Marvel and DC, even Infamous, which is its own like separate superhero universe, even that figured out that to get those core tenets down. It's like if Cole, like that words. Well, the whole thing is that a good ending is canon for both of his games. It's like when he's evil, it's like he's not himself, and everyone knows it.
Power's gone straight to his head. He's so infatuated with his power, he loses himself.
Which is also why evil was supposed to be canon, but they went with good because of
the whole cliche of ultimate or corrupts absolutely or whatever.
Yeah, that's why evil was going to be canon in Infamous. Infamous 1
corrupts absolutely.
Exactly. Because the conduit power. That was built into the mythos of Infamous with the conduit power. That's why evil was supposed to be canon. But in playtesting, they figured out people were playing more as good than as evil, and they made good canon. So at least they considered it, and it was because of playtesting that they changed it.
Right. So the idea of the Dragonborn is it's a fantasy world. There's not enough communication to understand what this force of nature is. And because it's a role-playing game, you could choose to kill people or not. You can choose to be nice about things or not. It's mostly go around killing dragons, which is pretty terrifying. So
I mean, if you want in Skyrim, you can be a murder hobo who kills the Emperor of Tamriel if you just want to.
Yeah, and people could see
that's not a murder hobo. That's an assassin.
Well, the idea would be that if dragons are a huge problem, then you're the extermination solution. People would say, "Wow, what a great hero you are for helping save our home." But then you could turn around and just slaughter everyone in the town. So it really depends on the community and the human feedback of this character, which there is none because he doesn't talk. He doesn't really talk about what it means to be the Dragonborn. He's just a legend that the Greybeards know of him. He's like, "Oh, you are the Dragonborn. You can do this." It's like, that's great.
He thinks whatever you think.
Yeah. So
sometimes the world needs a murder hobo,
and that's a very fun thing to do.
He's basically just some dude who goes around killing dragons, bandits, and zombies.
Right.
I never found a joy in murder hoboing. What am I doing wrong?
In that regard, you could say that there's a what's the system in Skyrim where you help out a town and they like you more? Is there a certain karma system with it?
Not in Skyrim,
no.
Okay.
No.
So there's no. If you attack someone, the guards will come after you. But after that, they just forget about you. Is that it?
Well, you'll have a bounty on your head that you can either pay off or go to jail.
Okay.
Yeah. And that concept was built into the series since Arena. It's like you do good by the people. It's like they don't give a shit.
Right.
It's like when you do evil stuff, it's like you are discouraged from doing evil acts in the series, and that's all the way back since Arena.
Yeah, so that's
Kill the Emperor of Tamriel, no bounty.
that's as far as this sort of.
Who's supposed to set it?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say is that's as far as this game sets the bar for evil and good, as opposed to New Vegas, where you have a whole karma system. You steal something out of in the dark, people know about it. So there's all kinds of weird things in New Vegas.
And even further in Infamous, where it plays into the story.
Yeah,
there is fame and infamy in Oblivion, but it doesn't translate over to Skyrim. It's a mechanic that isn't. It's streamlined.
right. So
Yeah, they completely did away with the karma mechanics in Bethesda titles.
So it destroys the concept of good and evil of the hero of lore, because there's no game mechanic for it. You can be whatever they want. They don't care if you exterminate dragons or not. They don't care if you trap peoples in soul gems. They don't care if you blow away an entire village. No one cares. So anyway,
Which does take a lot of people out of the role playing.
yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Understand this, we got to think about the dragons, though. Dragons in Skyrim aren't just animals. In fact, they are explicitly sentient, highly intelligent, and individuals.
They behave like animals.
Except the ones you actually fight randomly. They're just dragons you kill, and that's it.
Some dragons are of higher intelligence.
Yeah.
Like
Alduin. Oh god, what's the dragon? Parthenax. And of course the dragon you meet in the Soul Karen.
Yeah.
So they're all of higher intelligence, and when they attack you with their breath weapon, they're speaking to you. They're supposed to be having a debate with you, which they want to end with your death. So they're telling you to die, and yeah.
In fact, when you can even see dragons fighting each other when they're using their breath attacks on each other. They're having an argument.
Yeah, it's basically like fighting the bandits. The bandits are obviously people, but you'll be killing them in droves anyway.
Yeah, it's the bunch of Muad'Dibs arguing with each other with the weirding way. Okay.
Well,
die. No, you die. You die first. Okay.
Get Canadian help, yeah.
What the quote-unquote dragons are is they are demigods.
Essentially.
Because they are the children of Akatosh.
Okay.
The father of the 9 divines.
You actually said 9. Very good.
Do not go too deep into Elder Scrolls lore.
It's a rabbit hole you will not get out of.
It's going into
melt your brain.
Meet the dragon Parthenax and see that dragons are not all bloodthirsty.
Oh, and about Parthenax, apparently his name means ambition, overlord, cruelty. And when it comes to the words the dragons use, that you become the words. So him, that being his name, he is ambitious, he's an overlord, and he is cruel all by nature. So
which is why...
him being a pacifist and the leader of the Greybeards is him fighting his nature.
Like he says, what is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
Every dragon is its own person. Their souls go to whatever the dragon version of Sovereign Guard or Heaven is. And
no, you devour the soul and use it for your own purposes.
To near extinction by
because they were assholes.
They were seen as tyrannical and almost
they were.
So they were exterminated. So now let's consider the Dragonborn. He is a mortal specifically made to kill dragons. But that isn't even the scary part. When the Dragonborn kills a dragon, he reaps the dragon's soul and absorbs it into his own.
He's a Highlander.
To the dragons, the Dragonborn isn't just a killer. He's a soul vampire. He exists to hunt you down, kill you painfully, then traps your soul in his clutches so that you can't pass on to the afterlife. From a dragon's perspective, that is 100%.
Which, if we're being honest, is what a lot of video games do.
So dragons don't actually... They don't really have so much of an afterlife because dragons are immortal. So they just have their life.
It's like, yeah, in fact, that's the whole plot and conflict of the game is the dragons are being resurrected by Alduin because they weren't fully dead. They were mostly dead.
They're also fragments of Akatosh. I think they might have broken off during the ending of Daggerfall.
Yes, because
Which
it was
ending?
Alduin who defied
Yes.
Akatosh and broke off to do his own thing with his army of dragons, such as the arrogance of firstborns, as Odiving put it.
Wisp, do you not know about the ending of Daggerfall?
Which ending?
Just most of them are canon.
I know. That's the problem.
Please specify.
Like I
All the
said,
contradictory endings are canon at the same time. They've
That's
all
why-
happened.
that's why I say don't go too far into Elder Scrolls lore. It's a rabbit hole you won't come back from.
And melt your brain.
The most I remember is that the Dragonborn DLC takes place in a specific part of the Morrowind map.
On the island of Solstein.
On the island of Solstheim from Morrowind, yeah.
It used to be so beautiful, but now it looks like a...
Yeah, and then the
like
first
a
Dragonborn
war.
destroyed it.
And brainwashed everyone into being mindless slaves of his.
Until you
It
break
looks
the
like,
brainwashing.
It looks like a Lorent Vardenfell.
Basically.
Because the Red Mountain erupted, and now it's all covered in ash.
Oh, there's also that.
All right. So he's bringing up the fact that dragons are scared of the Dragonborn. Okay, that's one part.
In fact,
The
That's
mechanic
what
by
is
which
supposed
it
to be-
goes is a absolute standard video game thing where you beat the boss and you get the power.
In
Most
canon,
blatant is Mega Man, Castlevania. In a way, some Zelda games do it that way.
I think in canon, I think in canon, each time he absorbs one of the dragon's souls, he gets a little bit more powerful. You know, not just by unlocking the shells, but actually.
Because I think isn't every dragon soul a free level up?
Well, there's a mod for that, but no. It lets you unlock dragon shouts.
Okay.
Yeah, it's rather underwhelming in the actual game, but I think in
they
canon,
try to tie it into the narrative of the story. Like what's supposed to be the first dragon you fight outside of Whiterun, it actually panics when it realizes it's fighting a Dragonborn.
Mermulner, when you get to the finishing blows, it will shout, "No, Dovahkiin!"
Yeah, it actually freaks out because it's fighting the Dragonborn. Like, oh shit.
It realizes that it was killed in the presence of Dovahkiin.
All right.
Horrifying, and I would definitely ally with Alduin against that. Like, just consider if instead of dragons,
Why?
the targets were...
Alduin is a slaver!
Well,
He
Alduin.
enslaved humanity!
Alduin's name means Destroyer, Master, Devourer.
He is the devourer of worlds. He enslaved humanity. He is not the good guy here, dude.
Yeah, Alduin is literally the end times. Why would you side with the apocalypse?
Some people just want to watch the world burn, I guess.
That's like siding with
Alfred.
That's like siding with Darkseid because Superman's terrifying.
That's like siding with Galactus.
Because the Fantastic Four are terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say the Destroyer of Worlds is, a lot scarier.
Sue Storm goes invisible. Oh no, I can't see her. Okay. Anyway.
Like, imagine some Khajiit who was called the Humanborn, who existed to hunt down the last remaining humans, and he kills them in a world where the afterlife is objectively real, mind you, and then he eats their soul so they can't go
It's
to
a
that
Khajiit
afterlife.
that's not terrifying.
This would be a villain.
Yeah,
in
it's a fucking
any
cat.
other
It's
story.
the Elder Scrolls
Now,
equivalent
this
of a
type thing
furry.
is not uncommon for writers.
Look, you throw out some fish or some catnip and the threat is dealt with.
And also, it's only, there's only one at a time, and the Khajiit are not threatening. They're not physically powerful.
Or
So,
some skoma
thieves
or coin.
and
Just
drug dealers.
Throw some coin. Threat is...
Yes. Here, I'm going to give you $5 to fuck off.
The Humanborn, that would actually be a villain. But, because humans are generally not, humans are not humans are generally not eldritch abominations bent on destroying the entire universe.
You give me the Elvenborn, well, then that's just objectively a hero.
How does a Lichborn work?
Ultima Master Race.
Anyway, let's see where he's going.
Designing super heroic characters. In almost every case, the hero is the main character, meant to embody some mix of admirable traits or justice or righteous vengeance or just overall protectionism. And the enemies are almost always portrayed as innately evil or immoral, or at the very least, good targets for violence that shouldn't be sympathized with. Think of a game like Uncharted. You are the daring, charismatic, legendary explorer and hero Nathan Drake.
Nathan Drake is not a hero, he's a thief. He's a fucking grave robber.
Yeah.
Not sure what else to say about that.
Like, you're using, like, one we covered a while back used Nathan Drake as an example. Again, he's not a hero. He's a swashbuckler, a thief, a grave robber. You're playing as objectively not a good person. And that's fine, because it's a fun game.
But these your way, so what are you going to do? Not kill him?
I'd say it's more a series of set pieces.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the people he's killing aren't particularly good people either.
Is he doing a teacup?
Everybody wins.
You're still playing as a grave robber.
They're just doing their jobs for, aren't they? Because most.
I mean, well, in the example here, that's a fucking
mercenaries.
In this example, these are pirates. In the second game, you fight a terrorist cell. Yeah. In the third game, you fight the Scary Poppins and her crime syndicate. The fourth game are just mercenaries, though.
So first and fourth game are mercenaries. So.
No, the first ones are a bunch of pirates, so objectively not good people.
Ah, jeez.
They are working for someone, so you could call them mercenaries, but they're not a legitimate mercenary organization. They're a bunch of pirates.
Just as a side note there, I did notice that his grip is a teacup grip. I don't think that's the appropriate way to hold a gun, but I'm not an American.
I mean, you can, but you'd want those fingers, you'd want your other hands cupping in front of you there. Like, yeah, teacup, that ain't gonna do you much good.
Okay.
I never noticed that.
Not kill him? They don't really give you a choice, do they? Well, if you take a step back, you do murder a lot of guys.
They're pirates, mercenaries, terrorists.
Like, a lot of guys. Hundreds, maybe thousands across.
They're actively trying to kill you.
Nathan Drake.
Yeah. So what he was just showing was the stealth takedowns, which they could amount to murder, but when you get into a gunfight, it's normally instigated by the baddies, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like these are people who are actively trying to kill you.
And since they're actively trying to kill you, usually unprovoked, that makes it self-defense.
Yes.
So that free game, it's okay to kill. I was just about to say murder, but Jesus.
If you want to make an ambiguous example, then use Nier Automata.
Yeah,
where the
because
robots
the
are actually sentient.
Yeah, that Nier Automata gets fucking weird, though. But that's what people like about it. It's weird. It's existential.
Yeah, but contrary to Final Fantasy, it makes sense.
Which one? Anyway, let's keep going.
Is just one guy. And, like, not even a guy with superpowers. He's literally just a man. And he's mowing down entire armies of people.
It's almost like it's a third-person shooter.
A guy killing 5 or 6 mercenaries on his own is pretty scary. We would think that guy's like a John Wick type. But if we heard that a guy killed 500 mercenaries, we would think that's like an Avengers level threat. But Nathan Drake kills hundreds and hundreds of men, and he just like keeps putting himself in situations to do it. You would have to assume that after a while that he enjoys.
All right, so he's trying to characterize a video game mechanic where you have a shooting. It's a game of a shooter, third person, first person, doesn't matter. And that's the style. Therefore, because the level 2, you're fighting 30 enemies. Level 3, you're fighting 25, and it counts up. You're like, wow.
They're just cannon fodder. By that logic, the soldier, protagonist, whatever in Call of Duty is an evil, murderous psychopath because he's killing hundreds and hundreds of enemy soldiers who are just fighting for their country and doing their job.
Like, you can have a story of a game where, well, you don't want to go too far. You just talk about the existential moments of what does it mean to be the player character. And you could do that. You can give personality, voice, you could do all this jazz, backstory. And then what? What's the point?
Or this Halo where you genocide the space zombies.
Well, the Flood deserve it.
Yeah, but you do end up killing a lot of them.
Again, they're space zombies and they're highly intelligent parasitic hive mind. You don't want that around.
And you kill a few thousand Covenant as well.
Yeah, well, they're trying to kill you. That's war.
Yeah, it's a genocide war. They're trying to wipe out all of humanity. So, yeah, you need to kill a lot of them in order for the human race to survive.
All right.
A feature of the adventure and not a bug anymore. Resulted in me killing a town's worth of men just in a single stop. I would have to consider whether or not I should keep going on adventures. Perhaps I would think potential treasure and fame isn't worth all the human suffering I cause. But the game constantly makes it appear that Drake is the hero of the story, because I guess technically he still is, but he's just terrifying.
Okay, yeah, but we could deal with actual games that have this issue, like with Spec Ops. It's like, what is going on with this guy?
That's an example I was going to bring up, actually, because that's the game that does what he's talking about. Well, these are just people.
Well, it tries to explain this horrific, the white phosphorus element, and also the other crazy things that happen in the story.
Spec Ops: The Line?
Yeah, but he's talking about just the nature of games, because levels have opponents and obstacles which happen to be people, and you kill them. Therefore, you're a murdering lunatic, psychopath, survivalist, whatever.
Oh, and you know what? The games actually call that out. Particularly the second one, Lazarevich actually calls Drake out on it. Like, you're a killer the same as me.
I wouldn't exactly call Drake the hero.
Again, he's a fucking grave robber.
He's the protagonist, and he does a heroic act at the end of the game, usually, because usually the artifacts that they're after is something
dangerous or significant.
So it's a bit like Lara Croft in that way.
Yeah, I mean,
he is supposed to be the male Lara Croft, which is funny because Lara Croft was supposed to be the female sexy Indiana Jones.
Right. Yeah, and ironically, the reboot trilogy for Tomb Raider wanted to copy Uncharted,
even though Uncharted was inspired by Tomb Raider in the first place.
Yeah, so it goes full circle.
Yeah, and spy games.
Yeah. So if we cut out Tomb Raider, then Uncharted is just badass Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and the only thing I can remember is like Alpha Protocol will address that fact whether you kill a lot of people or not, whereas games like Deus Ex or Metal Gear, that's an option based off your kit. So you can stealth go through the game and tranquilize people, or you can actually use all the weapons and kill them. So not every game does this. I wish they did, but it's not some great revelation.
It's a lot of work.
It's a heck of a lot of work.
Dishonored does something similar to that, where you have the chaos and the order mechanic, where so long as you only kill your target and you stay quiet and clean, and
there's a non-lethal way to deal with every target.
Yeah, in fact, there's an achievement for not taking a single life, which is pretty damn hard.
The same thing is
non-lethal way to deal with every target, and even if you do kill a bunch, as long as you're not seen, as long as you don't cause too much of a disturbance, you shouldn't cause the order to drop too much.
I was gonna say the same thing with that is true for for Metal Gear Solid 2 and the remake of 1.
It's
where there is a non-lethal option.
And then there's an entire boss fight in Metal Gear Solid 3 where you have a shitload of ghosts depending on how many people you've killed.
The Sorrow, yeah.
Sorrow.
Yeah, so if you just go completely non-lethal, quiet as a damn mouse, you just have no enemies.
Yeah,
Well,
dude, going
no.
on
You
Lethal
have
3, there's no one there.
you have the bosses.
The bosses, but
There's
that's because
bosses, but that's
they
it.
blow themselves up though.
Yeah, the bosses don't count though.
well,
Only standard enemies count.
Yeah, it's like that's a technicality because they're blown up.
Well, no. They've got a bomb inside of them that explodes whenever they are either killed or incapacitated. And the non-lethal way of defeating them is to incapacitate them. So whether you take them down lethally or not, you cause them to die. So,
but that's still on their. But that's on their government, not on you.
So by semantics, yeah.
That's also the
by semantics, it is for that reason that they appear when you're doing the Sora boss fight.
That's also the meta reason for why they never show up in the series ever again.
Which you could argue that's not on Snake. That's on their government.
That's on them and their government. The fact that they show up there is like maybe Snake feels guilty that they had to die like that, but that's the closest you can associate with Snake in relation to Snake if you're going on lethal.
Well,
because it's on them and their government.
Either way, what he's getting at is because of game design and game mechanic, the main character or the player of the main character is a psychopath because of how the game is made, which is fine as an argument for doing a self-aware storyline, I guess, but that's not some real world part of the narrative like chapter 2. Wow, you just went through 300 people in a time of war. It's like, yeah, it was kind of brutal. And then what? The whole game changes based off who you did or didn't kill. I don't know. This is more of a meta commentary.
I guess he's expecting Nathan Drake to be like Cotton Hill, going, "I killed 50 men."
Basically.
All right. Well, we're 11 minutes, and if he's just going to say video games turn you into psychopaths, it's like,
no, not more complicated than that.
He's not saying that. He's just pointing out.
He's just
the least character interpretations of the characters.
He's just projecting very strangely.
That's a little weird. Like you're saying Nathan Drake is a psychopath for killing cannon fodder that's an enemy in a video game.
Which is also crazy because the game itself also recognizes.
I was just talking about that.
Doesn't have any moral high ground when compared to the villains.
How many men have you killed? How many just today? That's it, boy. No compassion, no mercy. Do it!
Funny enough, modern fiction outside of video games has sought to recognize and provide commentary on this trope's presentation. While I think it generally failed, Game of Thrones attempted to play upon the hero is actually horrifying when you step back.
No, it didn't. It fucked. It sucked.
Naruto.
I mean, there's
Game of Thrones is so problematic. Like George R.R. Martin bitches about Tolkien. Like, why don't you go into deep, intricate detail about why they were hobbits? They're hobbits because they're fucking hobbits. You don't need intricate, detailed descriptions of them plowing each other.
There is an earlier scene in Game of Thrones where she takes over a city and she has to deal with the slavers and or some merchants, and they end up capitulating to her.
Wait,
but she ends up killing them brutally anyway, and the actress puts on her face like she's enjoying it.
Yeah, but isn't the point of Game of Thrones is everyone's a fucking asshole?
Wait. George R. Martin complained about Tolkien because there was no explanation why there are hobbits?
He doesn't go into detail about how they have sex, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, he was saying that sex
Martin's weird.
No, he was saying that sex was a very human element, and because the size and scope of Tolkien's work, that he neglected to add that. Like, he had romance, you could argue, but that was just like sort of a formal political thing, as opposed to telling the story of why there are so many hobbits of a certain household or certain kingdoms.
He complains about the lack of sex scenes.
Basically.
That is a really fucking weird complaint.
That is because Tolkien is a mature human being, was in his lifetime, contrary to George R. R. Martin, who is a bloody child.
I was going to say that he's a man-child, like...
Well, it's also an issue of genre. Like, just because you think an aspect of humanity is sex, which is fine, you could say, well, there's lots of things of argumentation, there's food, there's sleep, there's all this survival stuff, which is very part of the journey that Frodo is on. And he says, well, where's the sex? And I'm like, it's war. Like, they have other things going on. You don't need to tell these stories of families and love triangles, and that's fine. You can tell those stories, but that's not what Lord of the Rings is about. It's a war story. So
it's about good versus evil.
I don't know why he wants that, because the book is big enough.
Because he's deranged, and I don't know why, but I've been seeing this pattern of all these very outspoken far left authors who are just sex crazed and put all these scenes into their books. I think the worst offender of that is Stephen King.
I think it's because it's the only interesting thing they've ever done in their lives.
Oh, jeez.
And they want to be the most interesting, unique thing. You know.
If that is the most interesting Stephen King has done in his life, he should spend the rest of his in jail.
Well, with Stephen King, his books, the only sex scene I know of is
The one in The Shining, not The Shining. It.
It.
All right, let's.
The one with the
children.
Let's keep.
Oh, and all the stuff we had to read in school that our left-wing literature teachers chose that we had to read.
Stephen King?
Not Stephen King, but also contained crap like that.
Oh. Lolita?
Probably.
I think that's
a classic.
Was our special.
All right, well.
Oh, joy.
You can't go wrong with the Russians.
One.
The Russians are fine. That's if you're going to learn about life, that's the way you do it. You read some Russians.
And look, there's nothing wrong with more detailed world building. I will say Martin is good at that, but writing an actual story is just dreadful.
All right.
Martin's complaining about Tolkien, and you bring up detailed world building. Oh boy, Tolkien blasts his way out of the water.
Oh, he does, absolutely.
I think it's driven by jealousy.
It is.
None of these people can reach the heights of Tolkien, and that disturbs them. And
you know what makes
so they
it
have
worse?
to bring that. They have to try to saw off the legs of the chair.
You know what makes it worse? Tolkien did that and wrote Lord of the Rings in his spare time.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a hobby he did in his spare time.
Dude, you know what? Cyrek told me that in a literature game with C.S. Lewis, where they encourage each other to write stories. The next project Tolkien wanted to take up was to write a time travel story. And that terrifies as well as fascinates me, because if there's one person in the world, in history, that could write that I can believe could write a time travel story that could be consistent and make sense, it would be Tolkien.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been trying to do a time travel story, but it's
Okay.
The way it works is I have to keep track of every single event as it happens.
Well, that's one of the problems. The other is, if you can't, I would put up the following rule: if you cannot write something that reaches the heights of Lord of the Rings, do not try to write a time travel story.
Well, if you want to read a good time travel story, read Audrey Niffenegger. She did The Time Traveler's Wife, and that is the hardest form of time travel I've ever seen. And if you can mimic that, you'll be fine. Your writing will be just fine. And that's a romance. That's I wouldn't say slice of life, but there's lots of that. It's mostly a romance. So, try a different genre. You'll still appreciate the sci-fi elements. And even though they're secondary, everything makes sense. It's all well thought out, which is what I appreciate in stories.
That is kind of how I've been trying to get it to work.
Really? That's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, we're at 11 minutes and a half.
Not Back to the Future style.
Exactly. We got a few more minutes left. He's not doing a very good job. He's being very general, unfortunately, with his.
Gavin hasn't said much of anything of value. Now he's talking about Naruto. I know that much.
Oh, jeez.
Became of his story, and later on, the show recognized just how terrifying he would be from the perspective of his enemies. And of course, most recently, we've had the retelling of Doom, where Paul is hailed as the voice of the outer world. But it becomes very clear from Chani's perspective that it's not something to be thought of positively. It's actually pretty cool to see the idea of a heralded, infallible hero meant to deliver us from evil be then interpreted as possibly just a manipulator, or the leader of a cult, or just someone who shouldn't have blind adoration thrown at them. The hero is only a hero because he's on our side. I talked about a little bit of this.
That's not how that works.
The only reason we like him or other heroes is because they are murdering our enemies gruesomely, and not the other way around. But
if you think it is just about who's on whose side, and that makes the difference between good and evil, then you have no morals. You have no clue what virtues and sins are.
There's an expression is, everyone is the hero of their own story.
By his logic, crimes do not exist, because what I do is just and what you do isn't.
Well, within the context of a video game, he gave the example of Drake fighting off NPCs and in the hundreds. It's well, if those NPCs had backstories, obviously I'd feel sad, but they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to be this this is some Anita Sarkeesian nonsense. This is some sort of...
Yeah. And that's what The Last of Us 2 failed at.
Yeah.
And what Nier Automata did right.
And there's the thing, ironically, that's what The Last of Us Part 1 did properly, was because there are no heroes, just survivors.
Although, to be fair, Smud, you brought up Alpha Protocol earlier, as well as Metal Gear Solids 2, 3, 4, 5, the various Metal Gear Solids. Most of the random guards and soldiers that you run into, they don't really have backstories, but you still get, there's still an effect on the world if you go non-lethal.
It's a very minor example, because obviously Kojima's not going to spend too much narrative time with every single NPC, and you get that screen at the end where it gives you the stats of who you killed and by how many. So it's nice.
It has more of an effect in Alpha Protocol, but in MGS4, if you go around killing a bunch of people, Snake he'll have high stress and he'll start vomiting. And his aim will go big.
Really?
It actually has a toll on him.
In MGS4, a hardened veteran is I killed too many people.
Well, the people he's killing are just soldiers for their nation.
Yeah, canonically, he doesn't kill that many.
Snake is never seen by anyone except for the bosses.
Yeah.
In canon, Snake is he's a fucking ghost.
Yeah,
and
even then, with the remake of the first game, it's now canonical that he goes non-lethal on them. Mm-hmm. He goes non-lethal on the Fox unit.
It doesn't even touch or shoot a tranquilizer dart at most of the.
Hell, Vulcan Raven is guarded by ravens.
In canon, it doesn't. The random soldiers, not the named characters. And in Alpha Protocol, if you go non-lethal, some of the characters will respect you more. Whereas if you go lethal, then different characters will respect you more. While those other characters will respect a non-lethal run and will hate you.
Yeah, I think that's the good feedback.
That has a far more drastic effect on the game world.
Yeah, you want feedback every time you do something, similar to how, well, not similar, but New Vegas, every time you solve a certain quest, an hour later a guy will run up to you, hey, did you just solve that quest? Here's a thing for doing the thing. It's oh, thanks.
And you'll gain fame, favor, or infamy with different factions based on who you're siding with.
It's a small thing. It does affect the game world, but at least there's feedback saying you did the thing, which is, I guess, all you need for some players just to...
It does help you feel immersed.
Be acknowledged, exactly. It's very basic. So you want that, I guess, voice-acted line saying, hey, you killed the guy, or hey, you didn't kill the guy. You're oh, yeah, I guess I did. It makes you think. But that's about it. No one sees the courier as Well, they see him as a force of nature, I guess, in New Vegas, because you could just do anything. But it's not. It's never based off your exploits. It's based off your stats. So if you're able to talk someone down, it's because you're so good at talking, as opposed to you killed off all the Tops Casino or whatever. It's like, oh my god, you're terrifying. It's like, nope, I'll talk my way out of this. So
I'm actually thinking of a webcomic I saw about New Vegas and the Courier.
Well, the memes about the Courier are hilarious because he's freaking a weapon.
Yeah.
Like everything.
He's the brain damaged, drug addicted mailman.
Like no one can stop him. He's like, oh my god, the Courier's coming by, get the hell out of town. So it's funny because we know the meta of these games, but the games themselves don't have that response. And if all this guy is saying is, well, in reality, Drake killed hundreds of guys, he's a psychopath. It's like, well, no, he didn't kill hundreds of guys, which made him a psychopath. That was a challenge in the level, and that was the opposition he faced. And
as he just showed, Uncharted 2 actually calls that out. It calls that to attention.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, enough for some people. And maybe he wants more. I don't know.
Again, he's complaining about you killing cannon fodder. You could make that same argument for the soldier in whatever Call of Duty game you're playing.
Yeah, think of having feedback for that for any game, like say level 2, and then you say, oh, what happens if I keep? Because if they notify you once of that, then the narrative is going to tell you maybe later and be concerned about that or whatever the case may be. Like that's the kind of realization, at least to killing. Like because there's other things we could talk about that make a character terrifying. That they'll keep track of these numbers, and other people will react differently to you as a result, and that will change the ending supposedly. So if that's what he's referring to as a writer, then great. There's all these wonderful ideas a game writer can come up with and have branching paths and branching narratives, and that's great. But if he's just saying, look at the meta narrative, guys, Nathan Drake's a murderer, you're like,
Look at these game characters killing all these things. Like, he hasn't really made his point. He's been talking about a lot of nothing for 12 minutes.
And this is what I mean by the Nina Sarkeesian element, is she's complaining, well, look at all these women in games. They're being killed. It's like, what's your point? Game. Like, what is going on here? What's the issue? How is that good or bad?
They're there. You have a gun. Why not?
Yeah. Well, that's what it feels like, to me at least.
Actually, a game plays with this trope purposely super well. Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War are games that set themselves.
Yeah, they use the Nemesis mechanic
to represent this trope and then subvert it later. You are Talion, who has merged with Celebrimbor, a violent ring wraith. You are the legendary hero because you alone can take down Sauron.
Well, you're not the legendary hero. You're just a schmuck who got cursed from death.
Bloodthirsty, innately evil enemies that deserve neither mercy or consideration. It's
they're fighting in a genocide war.
Yeah, that's what he's getting at.
Scores of enemies without feeling bad about it at all. But then the game, seemingly intentionally, goes out of its way to not only humanize the orcs with personal stories and characteristics set up with the Nemesis system,
but they're just so basic. It's just there to give the players something to laugh at. Like the orcs talking shit, that's just something for the player to laugh at.
And I do recall this mechanic was designed for a Batman game.
It was designed for a tie-in for The Dark Knight Rises.
Right. And they found a new IP and they switched it around. And that's fine, but this does not subvert the concept. This just makes it a mechanic. It's like, oh, you didn't kill someone? All right, now they're going to be a boss.
And now they're going to be pissed off at you.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're good people.
They're still orcs. They're still the genocidal nutbags who want to murder everyone that isn't them.
So instead of killing the orc, which you can still do, you now turn him into your goon for a bit. And you're like, all right.
Or
they don't necessarily want to murder everyone who isn't them, but they do prefer the taste of human flesh over bread.
Chad makes a good point. He calls all protagonists heroes, and I think that's where he derives some of his issues from.
Not every protagonist is a hero.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we just got through talking about Nathan Drake. Isn't exactly the hero. He's a grave robber.
Yeah, what about cases where it's an option again, like KOTOR, Infamous, like the whole thing with the morality system?
I mean, even in Skyrim, you're not necessarily the hero. You're so
you could be an assassin, a thief.
So you are objectively the only one who can actually kill the dragons.
The only things that is set is the beginning and the end.
Yeah, the rest of it's up to you. Like, you can be the valiant, holy hero, or you can be a black-robed assassin. You can be a thief. You can kill the Dark Brotherhood if you want. I don't think you can dismantle the Thieves Guild.
Yeah, it's like same thing in Infamous 2, where you can Cole can either sacrifice himself for for humanity or become the beast for the conduits.
And at the end of Dragonborn, you have you speak to what's his face, the first Dragonborn. Yeah. And he, depending on how many dragons you've killed, he goes, he basically goes, "We're the same, you and I."
Or he'll taunt you for not killing enough. He'll even.
Yeah, that's why I said. That's why I said if you killed enough dragons.
He even has dialogue for killing Alduin.
I think if you've killed 30 dragons without doing Alduin, then he'll basically point out the fact that you've basically got a lot of political power, a lot of magical power, a lot of physical power, and that you're set to become the champion of Hermaeus Mara and become immortal due to that.
And he doesn't like that, so you become a rival for him.
I mean, he wants to be. He basically wants to become a god, and he also wants to be free of Hermaeus Mara as well.
But also to make your hero character as comically evil as possible.
You saved me! Me! I hate being saved!
These orcs have, like, friends and relationships and dreams and goals.
That doesn't mean they're good!
Saved me again! It's all gotten worse!
Okay, that's just
the things the other Uruks call me! You can't imagine!
And
That's
a mechanic! That's just to give the player sense of, oh hey, it's this guy again!
He's trying to tell us that the guy who kills the orcs, the magically created, corrupted, evil creatures, is now the villain?
Yeah, the Uruk are just a means to an end.
Because they can talk?
Uruks?
And the thing is, with this mechanic, it's just to say, it's like, oh, it's this guy again. Oh, it's this fucker that killed me before. I'm gonna get him. It's just to give the player a sense of satisfaction.
In this game,
these aren't Uruks.
In these two games, you sure?
Yeah.
He's trying to tell us that they're just normal people like everyone else, and it's wrong to kill them, even though they want to genocide everyone because they're magically created and have to do the bidding of the Dark Lord who wants all the power. This is commie logic.
This is retarded logic.
The
That's what I said.
The Uruk-hai were orcs bred with Gondorian men by Saruman.
And the whole point of them recognizing you, that's just to give the player a feeling of satisfaction, like, oh, it's this guy I keep tormenting, or you can go back and get the guy that kicked your ass and you can get revenge and be satisfied for dominating a tough opponent. It's just there for satisfaction and basically to give the player a laugh because the orcs mention, hey, wait, didn't I already kill you? It's a meta joke.
Yep, that's part of the entire point of the Nemesis system. And it could only, and there was no way the system was going to work with Batman, let's be perfectly honest.
So it had to work with a guy who's magically banished from death.
Who's immortal, basically.
Yeah, he dies, he comes back 5 minutes later. He is banished from death. He cannot die.
This is also why it won't work with Wonder Woman either.
He's basically Kenny from South Park.
Basically, Kenny from South Park taken seriously.
Oh my god, they killed Kenny.
I agree with Chad here. This is he has a subjectivist stance where there is no good, there is no evil, there is only sides, which is not the case.
I mean, there is some instances where that's true, but that's not universal.
Not here.
Definitely not here.
So does not anything inherently, bad about siding with some orcs in Lord of the Rings? Because there's a few orcs who, do prove that there's a spark of hope for some of their species. But they were created by the Dark Powers to be a tool, and one of the things that Tolkien explicitly did when he made the orcs was he intentionally refused to flesh them out because he didn't believe that an entire race of intelligent beings could be, inherently evil.
And you want to know an example of there's no good or wrong, there's only sides? The Civil War in Skyrim.
I give you a better example. People who make these there's only sides arguments will never make that argument when Nazis are involved. They make it about everything else except then. But how are those better or worse than these fictional genocidal creatures?
They're not. They're the same. Except Nazis are real genocidal creatures.
Yeah. These are the fantasy stand-ins for such evil.
Right.
And these are the same people that cry Nazi at everyone who has a different political opinion.
We got 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes. So, let's go.
You are, best case scenario, slaughtering them, and worst case scenario, taking their free will away to make them your slaves. The things you do to these orcs are unspeakable. I'm not even being like...
Yeah, Celebrimbor's not exactly a good guy, but...
They are mentally disabled. That's like... Really?
Again, that's there for a joke! That's there to give people something to laugh at!
No. Leave it. Just because he comes across mentally disabled to you doesn't mean he won't violently murder you. Because he's about half your size and made of pure muscle with a fatty layer on top, which makes it even harder to get any weapons through. Good luck trying to reason with that force of nature.
And the enemy you brain fucked, and he's just mumbling like a degenerate. That's there to make you laugh. That's a joke.
That's how much the ring has deteriorated his mind.
It gives you something to laugh at.
Or pity sometimes, if there's you have more fond memories with dealing with that orc.
I would understand people pitying the orcs much more than making excuses for them.
Well, we could argue
that's what the Nemesis system facilitates sometimes.
Yeah, the best thing you can say about them is that you're putting these vile creatures out of their misery.
Yeah, you could argue that it's the best case of a bad scenario. There's two evil parties or two bad parties. That's the nature of the story, so I don't see how that's inherently a good or bad thing. It's pretty self-evident, and it's not a revelation that Celebrimbor is a bad guy, or that what he's doing is good. So I don't see.
Celebrimbor's not exactly a good guy. Didn't he make the ring from Sauron in the first place?
In that version of the continuity, yes.
It's fan fiction. It's basically fan fiction. Not version of the continuity. It's just fan fiction.
In this story, yes.
Better than Rings of Power, at least.
Oh god.
Rings of Power is not. Well, Rings of Power is not.
That's not even fan fiction.
All right.
That's just.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's obviously blowing this out of proportion for what he's describing.
Is this and just gives you the option to actually become outright evil. There's no smoke and mirrors anymore. You just get to become recognized as the monster you always were. And I think it's really cool that the story ends up aligning so well with your game actions. Creating a compelling story for any type of fiction, whether it be a video game, TV show, manga, or beyond, is an insanely difficult task and deserves praise when accomplished. But for all the details that writers put in, sometimes it's the details that they didn't mean to include that end up becoming the best stories. Anyway, thanks for watching all the way.
What the fuck were you even talking about?
He's babbling. This is just garbage, babble to make a video to get revenue from YouTube.
I mean,
there was nothing here.
15 minutes talking about nothing.
The premise is...
If you think about it, some of the characters you play as in video games are actually terrifying. And if you look at it through a fucked up lens, they could actually be the bad guys.
He never mentioned.
He never go into detail. Like you want to make this video, fine, but make an example. Go into detail. Do something.
He never mentioned Infamous, which actually takes the idea of the hero of legend and turns it on its head. Across Infamous 1 and 2.
As I said, it's just babble to fill a video, to farm clicks, to farm revenue for this week so that the algorithm doesn't forget you.
Yeah, if this video was actually about what the title says, like, he would have brought up Infamous right off the bat, because that's it. That's the argument right there. If you go evil for both games, it's as easy as that.
Bad.
This was a bad. Yeah, this was a bad take.
Smut, do you have thoughts?
The premise was fine. You need better examples, and like, I know what he's trying to say from a writer perspective. Like, if you just sit back and say, how would I write this character as I would throughout the level or the level design of a video game, be like, yeah, I wouldn't just have an action scene with an action scene with an action scene where hundreds of guys die. That would not be practical, because you wouldn't read that. No one would write this elaborate fight scene every chapter. You'd be bored out of your mind reading it, and it would just be redundant. So within the context of a writer, no, you wouldn't do that. But at the same time, you have to realize this is a game, and unless the game addresses that in any realistic or future gameplay element, it changes the narrative, then who cares? So what's the big deal if James Bond is a psychopath, or whoever is a mass murderer within the context of a chase scene that happens every 3 levels or whatever? It's not enough what he was trying to share. What he's getting at, we all understand, but he didn't express himself properly, I think.
Another game that lets you be the villain? Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of examples we can give, and he just needed to clarify his thoughts, but he just gave the simple, well, you killed a lot of people, you're bad. It's like,
I mean, he vaguely mentioned Naruto. It's like, there's something you could talk about there. You know, what is he? In Shippuden, he's what, 14?
The youngest, I guess, yeah.
Never ask
14, a 14-year-old blonde boy with a freaking fox demon inside him.
This one I'm going to need some help with. Never ask a Nord supremacist the race of his girlfriend, and it's got...
He's dating a Dunmer.
A Dunmer? Okay.
A dark elf.
Oh, no.
Yeah, all right.
He also never brought up any examples that have the morality system that you can be a villain.
Yeah, that would have been nice. A morality system for doing good and evil. That makes sense.
I mean, there are plenty of games that, again, I'm sounding like a broken record. Infamous is one of the better examples. And he never brought that up, even though it's like, again, playing evil in Infamous, it could have been his argument right there in this video.
Khajiit's still nothing. Khajiit is innocent of this crime.
If we're on that level, I do not know whether I'm relieved or terrified that he didn't bring up Kirby.
I mean,
well,
Kirby, somebody stole my cake. I have to go slay God.
That's true.
You know how many people of Dreamland he eats for nothing?
Skooma, my plug just gave me this. What?
Wait, where are you in? Are you memes? Where are you?
I'm in memes.
We're in the memes.
I was stuck on Khajiit because that was the best so far.
Okay, found it.
Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh yeah. Since we were talking about historical figures, Dagofu is a historical figure. You can talk to him. Just because he's a god doesn't mean he's not a historical figure. You can poke him.
You actually knew him when you were in the Nerva. He was one of your closest friends.
Yes, but that makes him a historical figure.
Before the tribunal decided to poison you with poisoned incantations, robes, and candles, because they're spiteful, treacherous bastards who wanted the power of the heart of Lorcan.
Oh, I am stealing that friggin' Cotton Eye Joe meme. That is great.
Right.
Actually, whenever I play Morrowind, I do side with Dagoth because his policies are... I like his policies. His policies are fantastic. But ultimately, even if you could actually join him, even if they actually made it so that you could join him, I would end up siding against him. I would end up destroying the hearts, as you have to. Right? So even if it was optional.
Guys, we're on memes.
Bad guy does a bad thing. Steven Universe, wall of text while he's bawling his eyes out. G.I. Joe. just guns blazing.
Oh wait, we're
This is
we're on the-
memes.
Yeah, we're in the memes.
Can I hear out this
It's hypothetical. Yeah, so even if you could, even if it was optional to destroy the Heart of Lork and there was the option to join Dagothr, I would ultimately choose to, destroy the Heart of Lork, and despite agreeing with Dagothr, because his means are to infect all of the citizens with God Plague, and yeah, it's. I'm not by any means necessarily.
It's going to be okay.
Hey, look, Dinga, it's your old user image. The food in the front of the fridge, the food in the back of the fridge.
I don't grasp the Superman.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, is that a bottle of scotch? What is that?
Whiskey.
It's whiskey and handing you car keys.
Oh, that's a car key. All right, fair enough.
It's a boozer cruise. It's drinking and driving meme.
All right. Let's not read that. Crest toothpaste. One small bite is enough to fill the stomach of a grown man.
Food in the front of the fridge, food in the back of the fridge.
Me finding out who could throw a Messer's spear on horseback.
Ghostly boy.
Messmers, excuse me.
Chicken.
Doomer washing machine. Millions must dry. And then once again, booze cruise and oh no, my dad is drunk driving. Someone stop him. Random tree. Oh, that was pretty great. The memes were good.
Yeah.
It's smart speed random this time.
No, friggin' Cotton Eye Joe up there is great.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, not a great video from our gentleman we used to enjoy. I wish he had more of a gamer buddy to just talk to him about examples and what he's trying to get at, because I'm sure there's something there outside of, well, the narrative of a game and the meta narrative is different than the narrative of a book. You're like, yes, you're right. And the same way that he reacted to is there restaurants in Uruk-hai culture or something? You're like, no.
I doubt it.
Probably not. Probably a bad choice of words. That's about it. So.
Again, they're not the. Oh wait, actually, it is via Uruk-hai. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Either way, he did a good job editing, so it wasn't boring to watch, but it would make me leave a comment saying, well, maybe you should have taken the approach a little differently, as opposed to, because he's such a gamer. He's really big into gaming, so I was like, all right, well, not to our standards, but still, he said he's big into gaming, so fine. Whatever you think is big for him is fair. Anyway, thanks, guys. That was less than an hour and a half of a YouTuber we enjoy, so thanks for the suggestion. I do appreciate it. We will talk to you soon. It's a beautiful day still. Probably the weekend's going to be nice and warm for everyone around the world, wherever you are. So go outside, go for a walk, move some furniture for a friend, whatever you got to do. Get some exercise, drink plenty of water, that sort of jazz. Go to bed early.
Call your mom.
Yeah, if you need to, yeah, do that. That's a great idea.
She'll appreciate it.
Anyway, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you soon. Good night.
Good night.
Goodbye. Have a wonderful time.